If there is any story that has been a tremendous influential blueprint on the study of psychology and the human mind, it is that of the infamous, death-dodging, yay-high Phineas Gage. But why? Why is this mystery man who looks like a steampunk lion tamer such a landmark case in studying the pink moist that is also the dictator of your entire body? Well, let's just say that Mr. Gage here had a happy accident. Let us reverse a bit, shall we? Now, let me recount what Gage was like before his jovial jumble. He was described as strong, active, persistent in his work. He excelled both in brains and brawn, having an unusually developed muscular system and a pretty reliable thinking noodle. And he scarcely got infected with diseases, which may be due to his internet antivirus-like qualities. Due to being a practical automaton in a suit, Phineas Gage mastered a career as blasting foreman, where he was considered the most capable guy on the crew by his exuberant higher-ups as he performed lively destruction with a custom-branded tamping iron. Unfortunately for Gage, he was not impenetrable. The date was September 13th, 1848. Switzerland had just become a federal state a day prior, Luxembourg was about to hold its general elections, and a bunch of other useless events unrelated to Gage's tale happened. 'Twas just another old day at labor for 25-year-old Gage as he was working on the railroad. To be exact, the Rutland and Burlington Railroad in Cavendish, Vermont, where Gage hoped to expand that filthy train truss that plugged America with twisting tracks and tricky traps. Allow me to show you how this job worked. First, you take a rocky outcrop and you drill down into the sucker! Following this procedure, you sparkle some magical gunpowder into the hole, then you take some sand or clay or something else cushiony that'll block the hair-sizzling blast energy after you bash it with a tamping iron. For some fricky reason, Gage failed to finalize stuffing the cushiony substance in. So whilst his attention was momentarily diverted, his custom-branded tamping iron sparked on the rock and KABOOM! That gunpowder exploded, sending a 1.1 meter long, 3.2 centimeter wide, 6 kilogram custom branded tamping iron skyrocketing through Gage's left cheek, tearing through his brain behind his left eye, and blasting out of the top of his skull at supersonic speed before clattering to the ground 25 meters away with blood and brain matter on it. This North Korean missile abruptly sent the lacerated Gage spiraling backwards, knocking him onto his back, where he underwent a brief convulsion. But, like the daring demigod this spark plug is, not only did Gage survive the impact equivalent to 9/10 of a bowling ball being thrust through his skull, the legend may not have even went unconscious, as he was walking and conversing within minutes. Andrew Jackson, eat your heart out. Local physician Edward Williams was somewhat flummoxed to catch sight of a bloody boy being towed in a cart with a funnel-like hole in his cranial area exposing his gray matter, which the bloody boy infamously greeted Williams with a "Here's business enough for you." The physician was in a state of disbelief as Gage reported his terrifying tale before promptly retching, causing a bit of brain to cascade out of the frickin' hole in his head. Some of you may be absolutely disgusted by that, but think of it this way. He was just feeding the birds. Dr. John Harlow took over to treat him, and this may have involved patching up Gage, plus the discharge of 250 milliliters of bloody pus and mucus from the frontalis muscle. Following that, Gage was bedbound from September 23rd to October 7th, half unconscious with infection. But in another case of astronomical chance that made the Greeks declare him a new god, Gage frickin' survived. And a month later, though blinded in his left eye, he was back on his feet and off to terrorize the town. Now, if Phineas Gage's story ended there, it'd still be an epic tale that you could tell your grandkids, who'd probably pay no attention because they're too busy pressing at buttons and vacantly staring at their phone screens. But something was clearly apparent after Phineas Gage was released into his natural habitat that Gage was, as his work colleagues put it, no longer Gage. Pre-Pole Gage was a sharp-minded, powerful, convivial champion who succeeded in his services and was consistent and persistent in his actions. Post-Pole Gage could be compared to a rabid wolverine. Unpredictable, rather capricious, indecisive, animalistic, highly vulgar and profane, and possibly even attack people on occasion. At least that's what his mini-documentary says.
I must have my job back. I'm still the same man. You're the same man! Look at yourself, Phineas! Give me my job back!
Gage also acted very child-minded, refuting other people's opinions stubbornly and kind of generally acting kinda cuckoo. Gage also began to lose connection with humans and experience a passionate love for nature, which that affinity was only beaten out by that of which he had for his custom-branded tamping iron that he proceeded to lug around everywhere. Wait a minute. Dislikes humans. loves nature, drags a tamping iron around with him everywhere. By God. That sounds just like me! Gage's loony kook personality was the result of that custom-branded trajectile severing the connection betwixt the frontal cortex and limbic system when it was shot into his cranium. Okie doke, you say in a phony baloney accent, but what the heck else does that mean? Well, my knowledge-impaired friend, here's how the brain works, right? The limbic system is in control of your typical everyday emotions like hair-raising fear, hair-clenching rage, hair-lining ridicule, etc. The frontal cortex is essentially a metal detector, or control panel, or YouTube algorithm, or something. It screens the proper emotion it wants to express, then proceeds to uncork it from its bottle and send it whooshing right out. But when a custom-branded tamping iron has just been propelled right betwixt the two at a speed path that the world's best javelin thrower could match, the connection is gone, leaving these bottled-up emotions to freely be delivered unchecked and proceed to cause general havoc. Now, a lot of Gage's symptoms that I've mentioned may or may not be over-exaggerated by history. Because so few primary sources were kept on Gage, the story may have morphed a couple lies as time hiked forwards and people debated over the accident's severity. Cause, you know, people debate what the extent of a 170-year-old accident has on a deceased blasting from its personality every day. Get a life. However, with the power of man's undoing technology, we have been able to map out that the custom-branded tamping iron's 1-second vacation and brain motel ended up damaging Gage's emotional processing and his ability to make rational decisions. So that's Phineas Gage, no relation to Ferb Gage. Any questions? A sudden yowl mutilates the crowd's ears.
What happened to Gage?
Well, my ear-raking friend, scratch that, an enemy to my ears is an enemy to my soul. Somebody call security on this freak. Gage's personality change was apparently so significant that the blasting company, who, mind you, called Gage the most capable man on the workforce, relieved him of his duties due to being no longer Gage. Yeesh, you'd think they'd at least follow workers' compensation laws. At the very least, give the guy a discount on his next train ride. In need of a little bit of money, eh? Old Gage decided that he'd lend his magic to museums, aka freak shows, where he and his custom-branded tamping iron were the stars of the show, alongside the bearded lady and the heretic who does a dang good impression of Millard Fillmore. Unfortunately, you can't exactly make a living as a freak, so for 18 months, Gage toiled for a stable owner until April 1852, where he transported himself to Chile and became a long-distance stagecoach driver. A notable theory I discovered entails that Gage's late-life occupation of stagecoach driver in Chile helped give daily structure to his life that helped him regain some of the skills that he had lost. I mean, you couldn't exactly be acting mentally ill when you have to navigate 6 horses on poor roads for hours on end, traveling about 100 miles per day in a foreign country with foreign customs and is often a target of minority uprisings and leader disposals in the name of the revolution. Unfortunately for Gage, he was forced to move to California in 1859 with his mom and sis due to deteriorating health from violent seizures. And Gage stayed there, unfit to work, until violent convulsions and seizures on May 18, 1860 shook him to the grave 3 days later. Gage's entwined tale is a highlight of psychology that proved that if you prod at different parts of the brain with a stick, you may change the host's personality a bit. Or a lot. The tale sprung up early brain localization theories that the gooey stormer in your head may actually control your personality, and thanks to Gage, we now know it does! So what is the lesson we've all learned today? Avoid tamping irons like the pneumonic plague.